Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is the power of hand holding, maybe of offering a hand, even. So, going it alone can be tough and lonely and challenging. And sometimes just the presence of somebody else there without having them having to do anything can offer us the support and encouragement that we need to get past certain hurdles that we might be experiencing. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you joining us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's here with us. And let's just take a minute or two to get present before we get started. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the power of hand holding, where this comes from is that I had a work date with somebody yesterday on Zoom, and it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. So I don't know if you've ever had arrange something like that for yourself. Maybe you have things that we all have lots of things on a to-do list, and how we approach that list certainly can vary widely. But one of the things that I notice for me sometimes is that I will procrastinate. I will go do something else that needs doing, but isn't the priority. And so this was the case for the person that I had a work date with yesterday as well. And we agreed to what we were going to be putting our attention to. And we had an hour and a half on Zoom where we didn't talk to each other. We were engaged in our own workflow. We were on mute, and it was wonderful. We both made headway in the things that we had been avoiding, and it was delightful to just know that that other person was there, and without anything other than their presence. And so it's made me realize yet again how powerful just somebody else's presence can be. We don't need to necessarily be doing anything to support someone. We can just be present, be in proximity in some way or another, just by being there. So knowing that someone is there, it's kind of like if you were playing a game on the field, knowing that somebody's in the stands. um, and knowing that you have their support can make all the difference in the world. So Rosalind says, sometimes imagining a little girl version of myself and holding her hand to walk to the place when I'd rather be doing something else, opening the door for her to enter as I follow. Oh, that's beautiful, Rosalind. There's so many times that in the course of session work, we work with a younger version of ourselves, and holding hands, there's a support that is provided by that is just delicious. And I love it that you say when you'd rather be doing something else, you allow her to support you and you support her. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's really quite a phenomena to recognize that bearing witness, I guess we could call it bearing witness, doesn't necessarily have to be physically holding hands, but bearing witness by being present for someone else. And in all different kinds of contexts, but particularly in a context where we're facing something that we have found ourselves blocked around, where we found ourselves challenged, to have someone there to support you. I mean, so for my friend and for me, having each other there was something that allowed us each to focus, because we had a certain level of accountability to each other, so that we wouldn't just go off and watch TV or something, that we would actually focus on the task at hand. And it's interesting because this came up for this person actually in the context of a memory where, as a kid, they were working on a report. We all had reports we had to do as kids, I imagine. And they were very intimidated by the process with which they were supposed to do this. And it wasn't the way their brain thought. And they felt like they were drowning, and they were kind of left on their own to do it and figure it out. And they weren't able to really figure it out. And so this sense of drowning, rather than having somebody in this process, they allowed themselves to have someone be there for them, and to say, okay, let's do it together. We'll do it together. And it's remarkable, just that support of somebody being able to ask you questions, to say, okay, well, what do you want the report to be about? Okay, great. You want the report to be about that. Where do you want to start? Great. I can be your recorder for you, and then you can consolidate it when we're done, for example. And so that's a little bit more of an active hand-holding kind of engagement. But that kind of simple support, which I've also done with clients, where they're trying to produce something and they're hitting a brick wall and are frustrated and upset, and then doing it together, having somebody to bounce things off of, for me anyway, unlocks a log jam. Because when I'm some projects, when I'm confronted with doing them myself, I cannot get myself motivated, and I get overwhelmed about where do I start with this, because it seems like there's so much. And somehow, when there's another person to help me focus in, or even just be there, so that my brain is saying somebody's here, now I can focus better because I'm accountable. I can do something. It's wild, and I know I'm not alone in this, but I can often do something for somebody else that I can't do very well for myself. And so when that somebody else is sitting there, that allows me to have the incentive to connect with that part of me that is able to rally. I mean, even with all the skills and with all the information and just sitting down to do it, having that other person be there sort of as an accountability buddy without ever having to say, here's what you need to do. Just being there is super empowering. And I wonder if you've experienced something like that, where you just couldn't get yourself to do something, and then somebody offered to give you an assist, and it made all the difference in the world. And I've seen people have massive breakthroughs in being, even by having that kind of support. So the logjam that we experience, oftentimes it's an internal logjam, right? Where we're just feeling overwhelmed or blocked, or maybe even thinking we're not capable, we're not competent, and maybe what's there is just like this little hill in front of us, but we can't see over to the other side. And so having somebody else to walk with us into that unknown, or somebody who might just be a couple steps ahead who can see over the hill, tell us, hey, it's fine over here, or somebody who's already in the water saying, come on in, the water is great, that it makes all the difference. And I think as individuals, it's important for us to recognize what a powerful impact we can have on others just by virtue of our presence, just by virtue of our supportive presence. And it doesn't have to be that we have incredible skills or abilities. It can just, in so many cases, be, I'm here to support you. And I remember years and years ago, a family member was feeling extremely depressed. And we had a deep relationship, and the ability to affirm that person, for me to be able to share with that person how I experience and see them, and the light that they are. They said it only takes one other person in the world to give that grounding, to give that sense of meaning when we're stumbling, when we're falling, when we're flailing, when we feel like we're drowning. It only takes one person to be able to see us, to know us, to love us, to offer a hand. It can be just such a powerful thing to offer that hand to even strangers. You see someone in trouble, rather than walking by, maybe you can say, hey, do you need some help? And the thing is that can be profoundly rewarding to the person who's offering that support. And I do want to make a distinction between help and support. And it's not that help generically is, I'm just creating sort of a contrast here. And certainly there are places where help is what's warranted. And I'm not saying that there's an absolute help versus support, but just for the purposes of illustration, I'm going to make that distinction here. Oftentimes help is, here, let me help you. Somebody's having a challenge doing something, and I'll go, here, let me help you. And then I end up doing the thing. And the question is, is that really help? Is it help for us to do something for someone else? Or, and there may be times when that's help. Or do we offer support to support that person in doing that thing, whatever it is, themselves, like by holding their hand or by encouraging them? There's a pitfall with help, as I'm talking about it in this particular specific context, that can actually be disempowering, that can actually cultivate dependency in a way that is not nurturing, that is not healthy, that's not healthy for either the helper or the helpee. So the pitfall is that with help, it can often be experienced as an affirmation or confirmation of incompetence. Here, let me help you. Rather than, would you like some help? And what would support you? It's a big difference between, let me help you, I'm the authority, I know better, I'm more capable, I'm going to help you, I'll do it for you, versus, how can I support you? What would support you? Where that is something that individual is generating and requesting, rather than something being imposed upon them and their power taken away. And certainly that maybe the drive to help is coming from a good place. And oftentimes it's coming from a place of impatience. Like, you're not doing that fast enough. You're not doing it well enough. Let me help you. I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do it faster. And then what does that leave the person who was originally doing whatever that task was? So help can often be something that is kind of driven by selfishness in its way. It looks like I'm helping you, and maybe I am. I mean, there are times, I'm just saying that what we get to do is to look at what our motivation is when we're trying to help. Is it so that we can feel better? Or is it to support the other person in their intentions? And I think a lot of our systems are set up in a way that the help, rather than being supportive and empowering, ends up being disempowering. For example, where, and I don't have an answer for this, but where with social services, if you start earning too much money, for example, you lose the support while you're getting on your feet, for example, and you lose the benefit. So people who are not able, for instance, to work full time, maybe they're trying to get back into the workforce, for example, and they're making a certain amount of money that isn't enough yet to support themselves or to be in this transition, and that then results in losing the benefits. Like I said, I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that help can be incapacitating. So what happens is people end up staying at a certain level so that they don't lose the benefits that they have, that they need to survive. I've seen it with medical conditions where people are essentially motivated by their benefits to stay incapable, where they can't get well, because if they get well, the consequences are too extreme. So it's an interesting conundrum, but it goes back to this thought about what is help, what is support, and how can we empower people, and the fact that we can empower people sometimes in very, very simple ways, like this hand holding thing, is just all I need is to know that someone's here by my side, like that if I'm stuck, somebody is here to cheer me on, for example. To have a cheerleader makes all the difference in the world. That person in the stands that's rooting for you, so that you're not just alone. And this comes back to the conversation about connection, and whether it's connection to our core sense of self, our core being, connection to something greater than ourselves, connection to another person, connection to a pet, connection to nature, that we cannot live and flourish in pure isolation. In fact, we are learning more and more about the fact that nature works in that way, with interconnections between plants and animals. We've talked about ecosystems, but we're experiencing this and discovering that there are much greater interconnections than we realized. Like in a forest, that there are interconnections between bacteria and fungi and different trees and different plants, creating this network of nutrients that they share with each other and that they broadcast to each other. So good morning, Bernadette. How wonderful to have you joining us. It's been a while. So we're talking about the power of hand holding, which is also the power of connection, but how easily just being there can make such a big difference for people, to know that they have someone who's rooting for them, that it can be that simple. To hold a hand can make such a difference, to know that we're not alone, because we're not. Any separation or aloneness that we experience is really an illusion. Bernadette says, I miss the touching. I can understand that 100%. And that's a role that pets fill that is just magical, that we have a sensual experience of physical touching, holding, cuddling, snuggling, petting experience with animals, with a pet, that fills a void, when we're in physical isolation from loving touch. So that's such an important thing. And again, hand holding. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. And I, as always, always deeply appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to share these musings on what it is to be human. So until next time, so much love to you.